Welcome, Sadie. Thank you, Dana. Good evening. My name is Greg Young. I'm the current chair of the Northborough Conservation Commission, and this is the February meeting of the commission. This open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Healy's executive order of March 29th, 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Clark.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Todd Helwig.
Here.
John Johnson.
Present.
Kelly Marston.
Here.
Lady Stone.
Here.
Very good, thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vincent Vignali.
Here.
Dana Volke. I probably clobbered that, didn't I?
Yes, that's correct, and I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Some ground rules for presenters and applicants on the agenda. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by a roll call vote. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click Raise Hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. I will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, the chair will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing via the Northborough Remote Meetings tab on the town's website. Okay. No meeting. Sadie Stone, welcome. Your first meeting, correct?
It is. I've been suffering from, it seems like, every kind of plague.
Oh, well,
Was sworn.
glad you're here, not here. Yes, it's been going around. It's going around our household too. So
Yeah, took me out, but I'm here. Happy to be.
excellent. Okay, meeting minutes from January. Let's see, Justin, you were not here, correct? So you and Sadie need to abstain from that. Any questions, comments on the meeting minutes?
No, they look good.
No issues? Okay, then we need a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Second.
Need a
Motion.
first?
I
Let's
make
start
a
again.
motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Roll
Thanks.
call, Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne. Muted Justin Dufresne. Oh, you're out. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm out.
Todd,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. Public hearings, 3711 Reservoir Street. Vinny, this one is continued again, is that correct?
This is the proponent has requested a continuance to address questions that have been raised. He's revising some drainage calcs and the he's also working on the land disturbance and erosion sediment control protections.
Okay. You think you'll be ready for March?
I think so. I think he's I met with him this morning and he has a handle on the questions and he's got a couple of engineers working with him. So I think that they'll be able to handle it.
Good. Okay. All right. So then we need a motion to continue the meeting for 3711 Reservoir Street to the March meeting.
So moved.
Again,
Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
Zadie Stone,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. A very light agenda. No certificates of compliance, no violations we know of. We've got a couple of informal discussions here, the adaptive bike trail at Barefoot Road and 432 Whitney Street. Let's see if we have anybody in the audience. I don't see a Tracy Horgan.
He was for the last one, I
Okay.
expect. But it would be Bob Mihalik
Yeah,
from
no, don't see
Trails.
anybody there. Okay. I think in terms of discussions here, to summarize, based on last month's meeting, the Trails Committee needs to mark off Edmund Hill's proposed trail, the adaptive bike trail, and then you're going to walk it, Vinny, or we can walk it and
Yes.
see what it looks like, and then we'll bring it back to the forum for a discussion and a vote. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that was the way that it was noted, and I think that that's what they are planning on doing. I might have inadvertently put this on the agenda just because it was on last month's, but
Okay.
we'll get to it hopefully next month.
All right.
Question. Did we have a date on when those trails were going to be marked? Did we ask Bob when that was going to happen?
No date that I see.
Okay, just curious. Okay.
No, because Brian was at the last meeting and it's tough to mark and don't define a trail when it's covered in snow. So
I understood.
we're just
Yeah.
waiting. That's all.
Okay.
And then the second half of that is the discussion around 432 Whitney Street, specifically the cleanup project here, because the Trails Committee has volunteered. They want to get out there and start cleaning it. We want to have a formal discussion of that tonight and a vote on that one. So that was the plan. Any updates you can provide, Vinny, on that? You're
Yeah,
part of the
what
Trails
I can
Committee.
do is I can share my screen. I don't see anyone from Trails, but if someone raises their hand when they show up, that would be good.
Yep.
But basically, I think if we could get it approved, the idea or have a discussion of the idea of a trail out there, then I think we can move forward and not have to wait for another meeting. So I think they would appreciate that. So I think you can see my screen with some green and pink and black lines.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the site. North is to the left. Whitney Street is to the left here. The wetlands, the old wetlands from 2010. So these are not legally defined right now, but there are some steep slopes going down to them. So they're generally not going to change too much, I don't think. But the green shows the limit of the wetlands, and then all this area in the north section of the property, or actually the east section of the property, is wetland as well. I just colored in this much. I'm not a big colorer. But then here is where you have three little streams coming down across and this is the southern, there's the north arrow. This is the southern end of the property. And we talked about having an access coming off Whitney, and in the short term having like a parking area right in here, but be aware that this is where the property is going to get cut out. A little, I think a 2-acre parcel is going to get cut out of here for housing, and then the access would drive down through across the housing to a parking area farther down in this area. The DPW director asked to have the parking in the area right off the road, and the police also asked that, just for safety and reduced likelihood of dumping. So I think we like that idea. So the parking would be here until they move forward with the housing. and then it would be moved a little farther down.
Okay.
But that would be the trailhead, and then it would lead running along the railroad tracks, and then continuing down the railroad tracks or next to the railroad tracks, and then loop around to the top of the slope and then tie back into that trail that's there. There would also be potential trails on the DCR property in this area. It's on the right side of the sheet. And we're proposing a single trail to go across those wetlands instead of having this loop continue all the way around and alter twice the amount of, or even more than twice the amount of wetlands and that many crossings. So this is a little safer and a little more environmentally conscientious to go across that way. And it still gets it down to the area on the DCR property for use in the future. So they did an original sketch of a trail that came along this area here, had a loop going down and crossing these twice.
Mhm.
And then also had some right along the really steep slope here on the north side of that. And I'm not exactly sure why it would need to be down there. So having it run along the top of the slope seems to make more sense. And I was hoping we'd have discussion tonight with the trails folks to see if that's an acceptable kind of layout for a trail. And then I'm open to your thoughts and comments from the commissioners as far as what kind of uses for that trail when it occurs, if you want to limit it or you want to leave it wide open.
Vinny, on terms of the extension, would this be a two-step process where the first step would be some sort of trail structure within Northborough, and the DCR trail would be a phase 2 or second step? Because they need to get approvals, I would think, from DCR and so forth, right?
Yes, that DCR is down the road.
Okay.
Right.
So our scope's really going to be, forget that finger that goes out, it's really inside there, at least under this proposal.
I think it's everything on the property, and it would probably include this.
Okay. Now, the trailer, you've got it marked near the wetlands. I mean, how far is that away from the top of that slope?
Oh, I'm sorry. The other line that's on here is the blue line. It's kind of a thin blue line.
Yeah.
That's a 100-foot buffer
Okay.
from the wetland.
Good.
So it's probably 40 feet higher in this area to go down there, but it's 100 feet away. And so that's a 100-foot buffer. So it's generally the trail as shown here is staying 80 to 100 feet away from the wetlands. This is probably the closest here. And that probably would be about 60, 70.
Now, that's pretty steep too, isn't it? If I remember.
Very steep. Yeah, it drops right off.
How far away from the top of that would the trail be in?
It depends on, I mean, if there's a nice lookout, like they have at Mount Pisgah for the 2 north and south lookouts, it's good to have a spot right at the top of the slope, but there could be little paths that go out to that, but it's got to be laid out in the field. That's one of the things that the Trails Committee requested, was to wait till spring for a formal location of it, but just because we don't know really what's out there in the field. They walked it, but they didn't walk the actual trail location. So it's always a little different when you're trying to define a trail and planning on all the maintenance aspects. And if there are places you want to go, we're only out there once or twice. So there may be some really interesting things that they want to get to that they're not aware of. So this is just a preliminary sketch of a trail option, but something that's workable, I think.
Okay. Questions from the commission? Comments, concerns?
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So once the houses are put in, the parking lot's going to go behind the houses? Or are people gonna cut through the yards of those houses to get, I don't understand.
So I think the parking will be in the front for the houses, and then the access driveway for those parking spaces will continue to parking for the trailhead.
Okay, And then the crossings over the wetlands on the southern side, those little bridges?
Yes. Well, I have not actually walked, I walked to the first wetland. I didn't go across it and down to the other two. But they're not very extensive. They're narrow stream channels, so they are crossable, it appears from this, if things haven't changed. So it would probably be a bridge structure similar to what they did over on Howard Street for is that the Bennett Trail going up to Pisgah?
Okay. And then I was looking at like an overview map. So just south of this is 290 and then it's the senior center, right? And that's where we,
No, this is 432 Whitney. This is not Edmond. You're muted,
Yep.
Kelly. You're muted. There you go.
so if we're looking at the overview map, this property is just north of 290, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
then just
290 is
south,
down in this
Right
area
here.
here.
and then just over 290 is the senior center.
And in fact, you would take the aqueduct trail from the senior center under 290, and then you're going to
Right.
be right on the opposite side of this rail line.
Right, so right here where my little hand is moving back and forth is where the aqueduct trail is. It runs
Yeah.
parallel to the railroad tracks. This is 290 here. So
Uh-huh.
then there's the passage under, and then it goes, like you said, over to the area near the senior center, across
Okay.
the street.
You good,
So this
Kelly?
is a very good connection, and that's why the Trails Committee wanted to get this connection. Unfortunately, we have no legal access to go across the railroad tracks. So to get to that aqueduct trail legally, you have to go out onto Whitney Street and come down and then get on it and go south.
Okay. I was trying to figure out why they were putting more trails when we already had trails there, but for the connection. Okay.
Right.
And Vinny, you may know more than me, but the existence of those houses is very speculative. I mean, when the CPC took the vote, it was just for the possibility, maybe in the future, such that it wasn't all locked up just for conservation. But I don't know that anybody has a plan currently to do anything.
Correct. That's exactly right. There is no plan currently. The housing folks in town are focused now on doing something over, I think it's Summer Street or School Street, that existing property that they own. So they're very busy trying to do some improvements and get some additional units over there. So this is probably years down the road, if at all. But this is where they're having an exclusion is what they call it from the DCR, is paying $200,000 for a conservation restriction on the remainder of the property and excluding that portion in the front. So it is in the idea of this property, but as Todd said, it's not concrete yet.
Greg, I had a few
Sure.
questions, I guess, concerns maybe. So are we voting on this trail? I thought we were just talking about they wanted to clean up this site.
Correct.
Which one are we voting on?
Definitely want to vote on the cleanup piece. The trail piece, Vinny, I think they're looking for, we would like a trail. We're open to a trail as opposed, not necessarily this one, or what?
At the last meeting, we were talking, and we're still in the same position where we're looking to just approve the cleanup work.
Yep.
And that the response that Brian made during the idea of doing a cleanup work was he didn't really want to expend the effort for a cleanup project if they can't put a trail in there. So this is just right now getting the commission to consider whether this type of a trail would be something, or a trail similar to this would be something that would be acceptable on this property, which then would lead to allowing or encouraging them to do the cleanup.
So, I mean, if he wants to clean it up, that's great. But if he's only going to clean it up if we promise a trail, I guess I don't know. That seems, I'm not in a position to do that. I sort of first of all, big picture, I like trails. I actually hike on trails all the time, but I guess I'm just curious, reading through some stuff that having a trail essentially excludes other types of activity on this property. Um, so I'm curious, I guess, the questions. I don't know if this, for example, hunting, if there was a trail here, hunting wouldn't be allowed. I apologize for the ignorance. Is that a bylaw?
No.
There's a Northborough conservation area policy that it prohibits hunting within 500 feet of a trail. The state law has a prohibition of hunting within 500 feet of a residence or a occupied building. But the Northborough policy extends it to within 500 feet of a trail, which in this case, there's not any area on this property where it's less than 500 feet from this trail and abutting buildings there. So you need 1,000 feet between the two, and that doesn't exist on this property. So if that's the case, there will be no hunting allowed if there's a trail on the property.
Are you talking all types of hunting or just discharge of a firearm?
Discharge of a firearm.
So bow hunting would be allowed on this property.
I haven't gotten that question. That's possible. I can look into that.
I guess
Because that's not allowed. What's the policy or process for bow hunting at Mount Pisgah?
You
Oh, I
asking
should know
me?
it. Yes. Anybody? Because maybe I'm supposed to know that, and I don't. I just looked at it. I was just thinking of.
I've seen bow hunters at Mount Pisgah.
Well, they're allowed to hunt shotgun and bow in Berlin and the Boylston sections, but in Northborough, they're not allowed to have shotgun. And I've not issued a single permit ever for hunting in Northborough. And Fred tells me before he left that he, in 20-something years, had never issued issued a hunting permit in Northborough either.
But I think, couldn't you, regardless of what the bylaw says, there is a wildlife management area there that I think the bylaw doesn't control that anyway.
Right. It would be off the property. They would be able to do whatever is allowed on the state. It would be on this property is where the policy for Northborough applies.
So I guess, big picture, I'm a big proponent that multiple shared use, multiple activities can take place on the same piece of property. These aren't mutually exclusive activities unless we have systems set up that automatically exclude activities because another activity exists. So my concern is that, all of our conservation areas, I think, are forested. At least I think they're all forested.
Yeah.
And presumably the town residents want to maintain them as healthy, productive forests into the future. And when you start excluding certain types of activities that can benefit those healthy forests, I start to have concerns. So for example, high deer densities can have significant impacts on forest regeneration and health. And if you start sort of systematically or unintentionally excluding deer management from some of these conservation areas, you're going to most likely find yourself in a difficult situation, maybe not now, but at some point in the future. It's the same discussions we have about forest management too. So I guess I would ask, I would like to discuss this some more before I say this trail is a good idea or not. I guess I don't know if it is. And maybe it's a broader discussion about what types of activities we allow on our conservation areas and what do we think are compatible or not compatible.
Well, that was the other part of this too, Dan, is would it be purely a walking trail? Would it be a walking trail plus a bike trail? What about hunting? All those items.
Yeah, there's a lot, right? Yeah.
Seems like when we asked them, it's not going to be just a walking trail. That was my recollection from the last meeting. And I guess, and we've wrestled with this in the past, but I mean, given the taxpayers that paid for this, right? Most of those taxpayers are not going to be hunters. So to exclude the vast majority of the taxpayers from this parcel, which I have to remember why we bought it. We bought it to take it off the map so other people couldn't use it. It doesn't strike me as the most bucolic of places as it is bounded by 290 and the active rail line.
Yeah, I mean, the other argument, and I think I've made this before in the open space committee, is having land just preserved from development is its own reward. I mean, you don't have to do anything to a piece of property just because you purchased it for open space. Just the fact that it's open space has great benefit to the town. So, and there's nothing preventing someone from just walking on the property. Doesn't mean you have to establish a defined trail. It's open to the town residents. You go out and wander around and explore if you wanted to.
But if you were going to do that and I don't disagree with that position, but would this be the parcel that you would have for that? It's pretty marginal.
Have for a trail or have just to wander around and explore?
Just to have as open space for the sake of open space.
Well, there are advantages. I mean, it's adjacent to existing open space. There's a large parcel to DCR. So there are, yeah, I mean, it's in Northborough. So, I mean, it's not wilderness. So you have to sort of take your benefits where you can, but I think it has value as a piece of open space. I'm not suggesting it can't be used by the public. I just want to make sure that I'd rather discuss it more before if we vote on the trail, as things stand right now, you're eliminating other activities.
Okay. Todd, you might know the answer to this one. When this parcel was purchased, what was included in the pitch? I mean, was it designed as being a trail environment, a hunting environment? Was there something connected to it?
The pitch was to keep it from being a rail depot for hazardous material recycling. Right. That was the pitch.
Right. Okay, but there was no use guarantees or
no. It was to create a buffer for the adjacent neighborhood. That's basically what it was.
Okay.
That's my interpretation of the debate.
Yes, and part of the documentation that we provided, even as the Conservation Commission, and I'm the staff for the open space, we noted that it could be used for a trail system that would connect into the DCR property and potentially go up into Berlin. So trails were mentioned as a potential use on the property.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other commissions have their 2 cents?
I guess my only thing with the trails, kind of as it stands right now, would be I don't know that I would approve that one leg that goes to the DCR property right now without knowing that we would have a trail there on the DCR property. It just doesn't seem to make sense if we were never able to get a trail there. You know, why have those wetland crossings and everything to kind of bring you down there right now? So to me, and when I look at that property on Mass GIS, it's just, there's so much wetland on that property. It's hard to imagine kind of where you would get a trail through there. So I guess I would have to see what that looks like, you know, before kind of approving that one leg that just goes down there. And I wouldn't have an issue with it if they came back at some point and said, yeah, we have this great trail system that runs all the way through there. Yeah, great. I'd love to make a connection to it at that time. But I guess until seeing that, I wouldn't see really the need to have that one spur going down there. But
build a big bridge.
My thought for now.
Okay.
It seems kind of redundant with the aqueduct trail being on the other side of the railroad tracks. to have another trail on the other side of the railroad tracks. To have both sides of the tracks being lined by trails, just seems a little redundant. But with the aqueduct trail being on the western side of the railroad tracks, does that limit, I don't know how wide those railroad tracks are, does that limit the property for hunting, having that trail there?
No, it does limit it somewhat, but again, there's that trail. What is it? It's about, I think the width of the right of way for the railroad is about 66 feet. And so that would limit some of the aspects of things on this property. I'm not sure. There are some residences right next
Yep.
to that trail as well.
I think there
So
are some
those-
houses back there. back
Yeah,
row.
so those throw a 500 foot as well.
What was that?
Not me.
I don't know.
A question?
Oh, yes, Sadie, go ahead.
I'm just curious. I don't seem to really have an issue with the trail. I think it's the property itself is kind of a smaller, unique property with that wetland there. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of other use for it. So to me, having a trail in there and going along the railroad track and connecting to the DCR property and allowing people to cross on Whitney because you can't cross the railroad tracks would be a nice way to kind of connect those. And I know the Trails Commission, knows a lot about wetlands and protecting wetlands, and they're not just going to throw bridges over those areas if it's going to cause a lot of damage because they are smaller. But I mean, I think it's like Justin was saying, if there's no set trail there, maybe hold off on that little piece until there is a set trail there. But I know there's a lot of you guys were talking about the limits to other uses for that property by putting a trail there, like the limits to hunting. And this is just me being new to this commission and not knowing how many, from the sounds of it, there aren't a lot of hunting permits being asked for in Northborough. So can someone just fill me in on that? Like, would it be excluding a large population of people wanting to hunt? And is this really like a prime area for hunting that would be disruptive to? And lastly, with the Trails Commission or putting a trail here, my experience with the trails that are there, they're not like really destructive trails. They're pretty low impact trails that are put in, and there's quite a big network of them. So I don't imagine, hundreds of people stomping through this trail daily or monthly to cause a lot of disturbance in this area.
Thank you.
I think if I don't forget a couple of your questions along the way. The hunting, I usually get 3 to 5 calls every fall about hunting in Northborough on town-owned property. And right now there are no locations that will comply with all the requirements that the town has in place. So people have to go somewhere else. So they go down to the DCR property on Lyman Street, which is a big private property, or other large private property holdings. How many people would use it? You can't really fit a heck of a lot of hunters out there just for safety and for, I mean, they want to find something. And if there's someone hunting every quarter mile, that's going to be a little bit more dense than you're going to have for the animals out there. So there are things that will limit themselves. You're not going to get a huge number of hunters out there, but it's just the idea of, should it be hunted, and how that impacts the forest that's out there, the vegetation. Dan's got tons of experience in that and all that he's done with DCR. And the idea of predators being out there, getting onto the deer and reducing the deer population shows improvements in forest stand, what's it called? The health of the forests.
Forest
So,
management.
yeah. So, I mean, basically that's the idea, is that where does the commission want to go? And I think these discussions are good. I'm sure the Trails Committee is going to be watching the video. So I think they're going to hear the concerns, the support. And I think that we'll be able to work something out. The question before you folks tonight is whether to approve the cleanup. So I think this discussion is showing the Trails Committee that a trail is possible. It's not nailed down yet, but I think I also hear you're in support of a cleanup, whether there's a trail out there or not. So we may not need to keep going on this unless people have new ideas or thoughts.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Did I get all the questions?
Yes, you did.
What are they cleaning up, Vinny? Just remind me. Like garbage, you mean?
Yeah, well, there's pallets, like downed, there's a lot of barbed wire was one of their big concerns that they were going to take out, which I think is going to be good no matter what.
Uh-huh.
Though the hunters might like that to guide their prey to a certain area, but there was that. There's pallets. There's a lot of old bags and things that were in the composted material that was brought into the site. So there's just a lot of just debris.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason to go into the wetlands to clean up, or is everything gonna be outside? I don't know if they put barbed wire in the back there or not.
I'm sure there's stuff that had blown into the wetlands, so there's definitely stuff in the wetlands, but the barbed wire kind of runs along the edge of what was, I think, an old pasture, or what was used as an old pasture down below. So the barbed wire is down in that area.
And I'm sure they'd rather do the cleanup sooner versus later, given the time of the year.
Yeah, frozen ground makes the access easier. I mean, the hard part is the snow cover is difficult now, but once things kind of thaw out a little and you can see stuff and pick up things that are not frozen to the ground, I think that would work out best for them.
Okay. So we can take a vote on the cleanup. The other question is, how do we move forward here? Do we have another discussion next month with the Trails Committee here? Do we do a separate meeting? What's the suggested path forward here?
Just looking to see if we have anybody in the.
No, the 0 attendees out there.
Okay.
Do you have the can someone share the actual language that talks about hunting on conservation land? Do we have something in writing?
I think it's on the town's
Yeah,
website.
it's a policy. Yeah,
it's
hunting
one of
policy.
I can
Oh, I
join it
can
now,
I can
or
no, I can find it. I didn't know
I
if it
can
was
get it to
available.
you after the meeting, but I
Okay.
might have trouble finding it right this second.
Yeah, Dan, on the Concom page, there's actually a link right to it.
Okay. Yeah, I can find it.
Okay. So is that what we do, Vinny? We table this, or we move it to next month's discussion?
We could do as far as the trail use and layout, we can. But I would like to get some idea that if we get a stretch of time between now and March meeting, that they're able and willing to go out and clean, then I don't want to slow them down. So if I could get either a yes or no for cleaning in the next month, or if you don't think you can support the idea of a cleanup, then we can just table it to the next month. But I kind of hear that I think people are okay with a cleanup happening.
I guess
Well,
I would
yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I would say I would just request for me personally, I don't have any issue with cleaning up either, but I would recommend that we make it clear in our approval that this is not related to the approval or denial of any future trail. That it's, at least for me, I'm approving the idea of cleaning up. It's not contingent on whether we give them permission to build a trail or not. Because I kind of thought that's what Brian was saying. He's like, I'll clean it up if you let me build a trail.
Well, that might be the case, right? They may decide they don't want to clean it up if they can't get a guarantee of a trail, and we're not ready to give a guarantee tonight.
Okay, I just don't want them to interpret this permission to clean up as also permission to build a trail. To me, they're two separate issues.
Fair enough. I think we agree on that one. Let's do a temperature check. Does anybody have opposed to doing a cleanup? Is there any opposition?
No.
No shaking heads here. No issues there. We want to take a formal vote, Vinny? Would that be better?
I don't think we need it. I think they got the idea. They heard, what was that? They heard Dan, so I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah. So the concept, we're fine with a cleanup, but there is no guarantee beyond that of any further use for the property at this point in time. More discussion is required.
And I can forward that message to the Trails Committee.
Hey, still nobody there, so. You know, we're going to have to put together a sidewalk out there as soon as we get it to March or April.
Yep.
On that side, so. Okay. MAC annual conference registration. I got a couple of people going to that. You want approval for payment, Vinny?
Yes, we need approval for $300 for registration for 2 members attending. Thank you, 2 members, for attending. It's good to expand the knowledge of the commission.
Is there a motion to approve payment for 2 members to attend the MAC conference?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Lady Stone,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Now the other question is, anybody going to go see Scott Jackson?
I've seen him probably 10 times over the years. He taught me in college like 30 years ago. He was one of my professors.
Yeah.
Oh, you were
You
a
did
child prodigy.
Amherst, right?
Oh, yeah.
Amherst?
Yeah. I think he still is some adjunct or
Yeah.
professor emeritus or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Good.
I think John is going to be attending one of them.
Yeah, I got one.
Oh, good. Okay.
With Scott Jackson. Yep.
Excellent. Be interested in hearing your feedback on that. What else, Vinny? Anything? I think that's pretty much it, right?
The question of the junior women's
Oh, yes.
auxiliary.
Yes. Northborough Junior Women's Club has an environmental committee. Last year, they did some cleanup around Mount
Edmund Hill. The
Meadowbrook
Road.
other side, right? Not the senior center side. They're looking for more work to do. I mean, one option would be we could pair them up with the Trails Committee at 432 Whitney. I don't know if that's going to be a rougher environment or not for them. But anybody have any ideas? We could use some cleanup.
That work they did last year was yard waste dumping right at the trailhead on Meadowbrook Road. There were people just dumping their cuttings, trees, Christmas trees, the usual dump site stuff. And I wasn't sure if any members are aware of other sites that are plagued with that same problem, because this group is very good about it. They've got flyers made up. They go door to door and you knock on the door and give you a little guilt trip if they don't know that you did the work or did the dumping, but they kind of make you feel bad. And I think it stopped the dumping over at Meadowbrook. So that's been very positive, and I think they're motivated, and it's a great idea. It's good to be able to utilize the people in town.
No, I think they probably don't want to do it until spring.
Yes, yeah, it
So
won't be for
we
a
have-
while.
We have time to find something if that's the
Yep.
case. So.
Right, and if you think of something, you drive by, you see something, let me know.
That's all we have for tonight, folks. This is a record short meeting. As we all know, they go the other way more than often, so that's fine. Anything going on you want to bring up? Any observations?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Sadie.
It might not be for you guys, I don't know, but maybe.
We'll let you know that.
I keep getting emails about doing the conflict of interest training.
Do
I
it.
believe it says part of this, but I'm also a teacher at Milliken, so I have to do it for that too. So is there a way for me to like prove that I've already done it for work, that like at the same time I'm literally getting emails on my work email and Concom email?
Yes, it is, I think, the same thing. You get a certificate or some documentation from your work that you got it completed. It's
Yep.
annually, it's required annually for commissioners. So I'm not sure how frequently it is for employees,
Same.
but if it is annual, then just make a copy of it and forward that into, I think the town, I will find out. I thought it was the town clerk is the one
I think
that
it is
keeps
the
track
town
of it.
clerk.
It's the town clerk.
Okay.
Good,
Okay,
Right.
so just forward that certificate to the town clerk.
yes.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. John, you're probably to take that too, right? You're probably aware of that?
Complete.
Excellent. Two commissioners are up for reappointment in April. Dan, I believe you are, and Todd. Is that correct?
True.
Any issues? You gonna sign up again?
If they'll have me.
Yeah, I said please if they want. So
Okay. Todd, we'll
Okay.
vote on you next week, but I think Dan's in, so we'll go from there. So-
That worked out well, Greg. I was
Just don't
gonna double their
forget
pay.
your deadlines on those, so
Yeah, good.
that's it. What's coming up next month, Vinny, that you know of?
Nothing, just Reservoir Street hopefully will be finished and ready to go.
And coming down the road is gonna be the Ramadan property. For those
Possibly
that have
on
been
Newton
around for a
Street,
while.
yes, yes. And I think that's the only one that I've been made aware of right now. There's a couple other murmurs going along, but nothing that's got any legs yet.
Yeah.
They
Ramadan
have, I
property's
think they have to
pretty
get
big.
through, I'm sorry, they have to get through the planning board
Yeah.
first,
Yeah, we get vernal pools and all the kind of stuff up there, so.
right?
Okay, then if there's nothing else, we will adjourn.
Sorry, one last thing.
Motion?
One more?
Is just to make sure I'm understanding, is the plan for that trail that we were just talking about? Are we looking at having another meeting between now and our next Concom meeting with the Trails Commission, or hoping they can join the next Concom meeting?
I would think the latter, and Vinny, you go to their meetings anyway. Vinny supports the Trails Committee too, so
Okay.
he
Right.
can bring forward the comment, but I would guess that next month we'll probably have if they can make it, we'll be here, talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I expect, is that they're gonna discuss, they've got a meeting on Tuesday of next week after
Yeah.
the President's Day holiday. And I'm pretty sure they will be discussing what's gonna be done here at 432.
Okay.
Good. All right. If we're all set, we need a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dan Clark,
yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Sadie Stone. Welcome, Sadie.
Yes, thank you.
And I vote yes. Very good. Stay well, folks. We will see you in March, not before.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you, Vinny, and thank you,
Thank
Dan,
you.
for your support.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Take care.